Welcome to the On the Yard podcast powered by the R.W. Jones Agency. I'm your host, Ashley Northington, and I'm here to connect you with the trends, news, and events happening across historically Black and minority-serving colleges and universities. Tune in each week where we will give you a dose of HBCU leadership and culture, one episode at a time. Hello and welcome to On the Yard. I'm your host, Ashley Northington. Today we have the distinct pleasure with hearing from Dr. Logan Hampton of Lane College. Dr. Hampton, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for having me. And let me just say, from the start, speaking into existence.
Okay, university.
We'll claim Lane University.
Okay, wonderful. So we want to get to know you a little bit better. Tell me about your path to the presidency. I read that you were a pastor. It seems like leadership is in your blood. Tell me a little bit about how you got here.
Yeah, so, man, this is interesting. It's a long answer and a short answer. I studied biology when I was an undergraduate with this notion of pre-med. And I also had a spiritual religious experience and had accepted the call to ministry. And so I made my journey in undergraduate, studying biology, thinking medicine, doing church work, youth ministry, supply pastoring, and thinking ministry, or thinking medicine and then ministry. And in each instance, it's kind of interesting. I kind of had a crisis of conscience and faith. Is it related to medicine? At the point, I got to the point where I was applying to medical schools, and I was on a medical school tour, and the student who was taking me on the tour said to me, talked about the sun catching you in the lab while you're trying to discover the nerves on the hand. And I thought, that is not how I want to spend the next 4 years in a lab, trying to discover nerves. And then at the same time, I was a track guy in undergraduate as well.
Okay.
And so I'm in my apartment. I've got my track uniform on. Well, I have the 1980s track uniform.
Okay.
You have to take your mind back there. And there's a knock at my door, and there are two ladies, and one of the ladies I know, she's a member of the church, and she's the church secretary, and then she's with a lady I've never seen her before in my life. And the lady's husband has died. She's a member and they're members of the church. And I am now in charge of planning this funeral and taking them through this process.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've been to 2 funerals in my life. And I just got this point, both medicine and ministry, you just never leave it. So I got to find another path. And the path that I found was student affairs. I was very involved in student activities. And my mentor at the institution said, well, have you considered this? And I was like, oh, I guess this is a job, you do it. And so I went to graduate school and started my journey in student affairs. And my goal was to be a chief student affairs officer. And I rose to be a chief student affairs officer and eventually found my way back to ministry as well. So when I came to Lane College, I was serving as a chief student affairs officer and serving as a pastor in a church. And so Lane College job comes available, and it is a church affiliated school. It's affiliated with the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church, which I'm an ordained elder. And so I thought, man, this is a grand opportunity for me to combine my 2 lives, the ministry of salvation and the ministry of education. And so for the last 8 years, starting my 9th year, I have been on this journey of this combined, for me, my combined ministry.
I love that. I love that. So when
Told you it was a long answer.
no, that was a perfect answer. It was exactly what I wanted to know. So when you look across your career and you think about students and their
Yes.
families, how have the needs and concerns of students changed? What trends are you seeing in that respect? And do the needs and concerns of students, do they align with maybe the needs and concerns that maybe your board of trustees has, and how do you bridge that gap?
Yeah, so that's interesting. That's a delicious question.
I
Yeah,
love
but
that the question is delicious. Great.
And it could take us a while to unpack that. So changes among students. So my parents had no idea where the financial aid office was or the administration building at my undergraduate institution. They were engaged and involved parents,
Right.
but they had no idea. They had no idea who any of my faculty were at that time, and they were engaged and involved parents. That has changed.
Okay.
I tease we have helicopter parents.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We have lawnmower parents. We have bulldozer parents. I mean, so parents and the parent and student relationship is different. It is just not unusual. I give out my cell phone number to parents and students, and it's just not unusual for a parent or a student to call me about the most important of issues and the most mundane of issues. I tease. I remember once a parent calling me at 2 a.m. about not being able to find her son, and it woke me up. I answered the phone, and I'm listening, and I'm thinking, is there an emergency? Is there a problem? And so while I am on the phone with her, I'm starting to text my security and persons. Is there something going on campus? And I'm not getting anything back of any concern. And so then it just is clear to me that this mother is just a loving mother who wants to be in contact with her son. And so now my whole conversation is changing, and I'm saying, okay, I understand that XYZ fraternity had a party tonight. Maybe he's there. I don't know. You don't know. But let's consider that no news is good news.
Right.
And if I hear something that is of a nature, I'll give you a call. So I think that's a change. And then having those, then the student expectation that the parent be engaged in that way, all the way from classes and grades. That in my mind is probably the biggest change from, I'd say, when I was in school and when students are in school. Now in 2022, I think we must talk about trauma, and all of our students, as well as all of our faculty and staff, have arrived this year having been traumatized by the pandemic, and for many of our students, even it's been a dual or a triple, pandemic. Certainly is the pandemic of the coronavirus, and everyone lost persons in their lives, but then there's the racial pandemic that many of my students experienced firsthand, and then the combination of those two pandemics really kind of elevated and accentuated the financial digital divide that exists in our community. And so our students will come with that series of challenges that is just different. Students in my generation, and maybe maybe I'm looking at my college days, through our lenses, but I don't remember my classmates having the level of trauma in their lives, having lost friends and classmates to gun violence and certainly not a pandemic. And they bring all of that to the campus now, which is just different. And now does my board see that and experience that? And do they know that? They know it as I share that with them.
Sure.
And I think they know it intellectually.
Right.
But it's a different thing to be in the trenches.
Sure.
To be in a financial aid office and have a student that's just amped up to the top. And it's like, whoa, there's something else going on,
right,
other than I just told you that you need to accept your financial aid.
Right.
So I can apply it to your account. So there's something else going on. There's something else going on in the class when the student attends class for 3-4 weeks and then just drops off the face of the earth, and then returns at midterm and says to the faculty member, I'm ready to take my midterm. I said, what?
Where have you been?
Where have you been? What happened? And so, yeah, it's a different lived experience. Yeah. But my board is a very sensitive board. They're a very concerned board, and that notion there is that's just a depth of understanding that it's going to take some time for all of us to better understand.
So how do you think, you're responding to this? Like, how is your institution adapting to this trauma that you're seeing?
Well, we've started at all levels. So we have these, recently in the last 2 years, we've identified these student success coaches. Okay. That are assigned to incoming students and who are trained in all of the things that student success coaches need to be trained in to help a student be a good student. But in addition to that, we've also taken those persons through trauma-informed training. Okay. And so we have trauma-informed academic advising, trauma-informed student engagement. We are continually working to expand the services of our counseling center. So the counseling center is not just a static office that you go over there to the counselor, but the counselors are coming out to the students and just doing, just unique kinds of programs. I mean, they might do a thing where they might have gather a group of students, and the students just express themselves through art, through poetry, through drawings, where they are having an opportunity to just release some of the tension that exists inside of them, that prevents them from being being the scholars that they can be and performing at the scholarly level that they can perform at. So our students were hit hard, and I think it's probably across the nation. I mean, it's just the academic performance during the pandemic has just been, I'm trying to find a kind word. It's not been up to par.
Yeah, I understand. So when you think about the trauma-informed approach and how you are servicing your students, does that also extend to your faculty? How do your faculty and staff get to have similar kinds of release?
Thank you for that question, Ashley. Thank you. This is somewhat cathartic. I feel like I'm on your couch now.
I love it. Okay.
So, I was just talking to a colleague and just a few days ago, and the colleague, in a private moment, just said to me, "I'm not okay." And it was a phrase about 1.5 years ago that just experiencing the stress, talking personally now, experiencing the stress of trying to manage an institution during the midst of COVID, trying to balance a budget, trying to get everyone paid, and literally trying to keep people alive. The stress of running the institution was just considerable. And in a staff meeting, my COVID-19 meeting, which we started, initially we were having it every day, and then we've now got it down to once a week. But I said to my colleagues, I said, I'm not okay. And I want you to know it's okay for you to declare it's not, you're not okay. And we've got to take care of ourselves. And so I started to refocus, and my vice presidents and others just grabbed that notion. And in our college assemblies, in our conversations with one another, we're pushing one another. Take care of yourself. Take your break. Take it. This is not the time to miss your vacation. We know you all love, you're type A personnel. Take your vacation. Spend some time away. And then there have even been times when conversations and communications gets tense enough that a supervisor will say to a colleague, take some time off.
Yeah.
Just
you need a break.
You're at a point. So yes, it's both for our faculty and our staff and for our students. This season has been a difficult season, but together we've made it to the fall of 2022.
Yes.
Yes, we made it. We made it here, and I'm kind of rambling now. So
This is great. I want to commend you on the act of being vulnerable and letting people know, acknowledging, listen, I'm not okay, and it's okay for you to not be okay. How does that vulnerability, that level of compassion, how does that show up in your leadership style?
Yeah, so I literally believe and lead with love. Love is a leadership principle for me, in that it guides my relationships, it guides my conversations, it is my motivation. So I I do have to push myself and remind myself the love is a principle for me. When I need to assume positive intent,
Right.
when an email comes across my computer and it triggers me, I have to then assume positive intent, remind myself, love you lead with love, as I respond to the person, and assume that they have the best interests of students in
Right.
mind, that they have the best interests of the institution in mind. And yes, they're human beings, so their interest is going to be interwoven into that. But the interest of the students in the institution is there, and we have to continually remind ourselves of that. And so I start right there. I start with leading with love, and then trying to be considerate and consistent,
Right.
Across in terms of how I deal with management, students, faculty, and staff. And then another element of and I take some elements of ministry and bring them to higher education leadership. It's just presence. It's being present with my colleagues, being present with my students. I eat in the cafeteria, and I encourage my colleagues to eat in the cafeteria. And I say to them, it's just better for all of us when you're seen in that community.
Right.
I say it helps behavior. It helps to build relationships. It helps to improve the food in the cafeteria.
Right. Right.
It all benefits. And so our folks in dining services created a very affordable meal plan for us to purchase, so that we too can eat in the dining hall and be present with our students. So I'd offer those things for me. I think love and consistency and presence are elements of my leadership style that I try to practice.
That's awesome. I love that. So just switching gears just a bit, when you look out into the landscape and you think about everything that's happened over the last few years, what would you say would be the biggest sort of challenge that you think is facing HBCUs in general, and then maybe Lane specifically?
HBCUs in general. I think part of the challenge with historically black colleges and universities is it's not our problem, but it's the perception
Okay.
that others have of us. It's just someone says, how do we positively impact the lives of African American minority students? And what strategy should we do? Well, we'll go to research institutions all over the country, and they will do studies, and they will produce reports. So what should we do with first generation students?
Right.
Go all over the country. There will be major institutions that will do studies, do reports. And it is exactly what we do.
Correct.
We have, from our foundings, we've been those institutions that educated those who, were it not for our institutions, would not have had access to education. That continues today.
Right.
And so we are the experts in how to educate first generation, underserved, underprivileged, marginally prepared, bright, intelligent, capable, got all the swagger in the world. You can't tell them a thing.
Yeah.
We are the experts in this. And so you need not look for experts or look for a way to do this. Look at our institutions. Our institutions. We are educating and graduating those who others would not dare to educate and to give an opportunity to graduate.
Right.
And our students only want an opportunity.
Right.
So I'd say, for me, that is, having been in this space, spent time outside of the HBCU space for all of my career, saving in terms of board service, and now being in this space, it is the perception outside. Our faculty are some of the greatest faculty. Our students are just absolutely wonderful. Campus culture, the kinds of campus culture that we have at Lane College is the kind of culture that at institutions that I worked previously, we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to create the kind of culture that is created on our campus, the kind of camaraderie and the esprit de corps. Homecoming doesn't just happen because folks just say, I'm going to go back to homecoming.
Right.
We tried that at some other institutions.
Right.
No, the reason that we have the kinds of homecomings that we have is because folks are coming home.
Right.
It is because of the culture and the community and the care and the love. That's who we are. And so I'd say our main problem is the perception, and because of the perception, there's a lack of investment. And that there needs to be greater and greater and greater investments in these institutions that are punching above their weight, that are achieving against the odds, that are literally doing more with less.
Yes.
We need greater investments. Invest in us. You invest in our institutions, give us an opportunity and just see what we would do. You can see what we've done with the little that we have.
Right.
I mean, Lane College is the most affordable institution in the state of Tennessee. We educate the highest percentage of Pell-eligible students of any institution in the state of Tennessee.
Oh, really? Okay.
Period. And so we're running institutional Pell grants. Imagine what we might do if we had significant endowment. Imagine what we might do if corporates and individuals were making the kinds of investments in Lane College that they do in a political campaign.
Right.
And you put your money in a political campaign, everybody except one lady's gonna win, gonna lose. Everybody else is gonna be a loser.
Right.
And,
so if you got, let's just say hypothetically, you got, $10 million, or you got a one-time large gift, 20 million, 50 million. Let's just say,
Yes.
Mackenzie Scott or Reed Hastings or some of these folks, they wrote you a check for $100 million.
Yes.
What would you do with it?
Yes, so I would start with deferred maintenance, and I would improve the deferred maintenance. We have historic buildings, and our institutions are historic sites. We have no interest or intention of removing those historic sites. I have the great pleasure of walking into a building on a day-to-day basis, look down at the floors in my outer foyer, and those 100-year-old floors. Bishop Isaac Lane, who raised the money to build, walked on those floors. Saunders and Bray and J.F. Lane and Kirkendall and White and McClure, all the presidents that preceded me walked on those floors. And the building has been modernized. It was in fact modernized. But we have other historic buildings that need a touch.
Right.
And we have residence hall, academic buildings that need. So I'd start with deferred maintenance. And so give my students that first look to say, an investor thought enough of you to do this, and this is what we're doing for you. We're giving to you the most modern of facilities. And then we would look at the academic programs and say, what academic programs do we need to add to our liberal arts offering that would provide our students the opportunity to compete at a higher level? And we'd grow our academic programs. And then hopefully we'd have enough to buttress our endowment and to build up our endowment.
So I've got a couple of more questions.
Uh-oh.
And so I want to ask you this. If the federal government could do one thing to support your institution and institutions like yours, what would it be?
Triple Pell.
Triple the Pell. So the double Pell campaign that we're on right now is we need to triple it.
So I testified to Congress. My senator at the time, Senator Lamar Alexander, at the beginning of the pandemic, invited several presidents to testify as the pandemic was starting and thinking about how we were going to open in the fall of 20. And so he invited me to testify. And so in preparation for testifying, I met with our strongest NICU, and I met with the folks at United Negro College Fund. And so we worked, and UNCF folks and we worked hand in hand, and just kind of went back and forth. I wrote some notes, and then they would, make some suggestions. And so, and I started out with Triple Pell because I looked at my students, and I thought at the time, if you could get Pell to 18,000, the total direct cost of attendance at Lane College is $19,400. That would mean my 90+% students would have their undergraduate education paid for. What percent of jobs in the future will require post-secondary training? Most.
Right.
And so as a nation, if we are going to continue to be the exceptional nation that we are, if we're going to continue to be the world superpower, then we have a responsibility to lift up all votes. All votes must be lifted. All students must be lifted. All socioeconomic groups must have an opportunity to a high quality education. And in my instance, a high quality liberal arts education that student needs, but then our nation and our world needs these minds to be educated beyond high school.
Right.
And so making that affordable, to me, is the number one issue.
Yeah, got it. So I've got 3 more questions.
Okay.
And these are questions designed to...
I'm going to go quicker. I hear it, go quicker.
No. These are designed to get to know you a little bit better.
Oh, okay.
And so the first one is, what practice or activity keeps you grounded?
So I start each day by reading the Word of God and reading a little devotion, just to remind myself it's not about me.
Mm-hmm.
There's a greater power, and that I have some help. And so, and I start every day like that, and that keeps me grounded and humble.
Yes. Okay. What's the best life advice you've ever received?
So I had a president to tell me about being president. I told him I'm gonna whittle it down to being president. So I'm gonna start with being president. So in the presidency, Joel Anderson stopped by. He was on his way to a meeting, and his chancellor at my previous institution, he stopped by and had lunch with me. And I said to him, I said, I really learned to listen from you, and I learned that in meetings that you were always the last person to speak. And he knew me. He knew that I like to talk. And he said to me, he said, well, he said, yes, you gotta listen. You gotta take in, all of the voices. And then he says, and be the last to speak. And then he said, and if you're the first, you better be right.
I know that's right. Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And that has guided some conversations. And I can point to some conversations where I didn't do that and literally stepped in it. Literally made major mistakes because I didn't heed that very advice to be the last to speak. Because I spoke too soon and made the wrong decisions.
I'm going to take a clip of this and I'm going to blast it everywhere because there are some folks that I know that need to heed that particular advice. And so my last and final question is this. If there was one thing that you wish people knew about Lane, what is that?
That we have the most dynamic, creative, highly intellectual student body that you could imagine. And our students, they need an opportunity. In the same way that I would say to our community, trust Lane College. Trust that we know what we're doing with this population. Trust our students. Trust them and give them an opportunity. You'll be surprised at how they might transform your community, transform your company, transform those who would live in and around them. Give them an opportunity.
Love it. Love it. That is excellent. Thank you for the time today. Thank you for agreeing to come and sit with me. This has been amazing. Thank you for joining us.
And I thank you, and I thank you for insisting that I come and stand over here.
I did insist.
Sure that I got here. And thank you for all your work and all that you do for higher ed.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of On the Yard, powered by the R.W. Jones Agency. R.W. Jones is the nation's only strategic communications and issues management firm explicitly focused on higher education, serving more than 50 colleges and universities nationwide. Check back for next week's episode of On the Yard, where we'll give you another dose of HBCU leadership and culture.